Good morning and welcome to Behind the Screen, a show where we talk about games, gaming, games in general, game reviews, game design, advice for game masters, players. We just talk about a lot of things. We're dealing with games. Hey, John, good to see you this morning. I think you're going to see us a couple more times this week. We're doing the big Savage Universe reveal later this week, which I'm very excited about on the PEG stream. Morning Certified to Organic is always good to see you. And then we're going to be doing Crucible of Realms tonight, episode 2, session 2. I don't know. It always bothers me to say episodes of games. I understand for streaming it makes sense, but I don't like getting into the habit of calling my games episodes. It's just weird. So we were going to talk about part 3 of the an argument for alignment, the breakdown. But I think we're gonna push that off for 2 behind the screens. On Thursday, I'm gonna have a friend of the show. Hey, Professor, good to see you. Friend of the show, GM Matt, who's got his own great channel about gaming. He's going to be on behind the screen with me. We're going to talk about alignment from a game master's perspective. But Matt and I have been talking a lot this week about something that's been going on in the Twitter sphere and the online discussion around gaming. And I asked several people about if they would like to see this. We talked about this, and there was some positive discussion here. So, Rook, this one's for you, buddy. Thank you, Certified. I appreciate. They're episodes. I like that. I think I'm going to use that. So, I have a bit of a reputation as a game master. Back in Colorado is where it started, and it's continued here after the move. This reputation is that characters die in my games. Now notice, I did not say I kill characters in my games, but characters die in my games. I may regret this, but I thought I would hold up. This is the stack of character sheets of characters who have died in one campaign. In the 2E Axia game that I am running, this is the Roll of the Dead. In fact, one of my players bought me a stamp. You can see this little red mark on here that has cause of deaths, and I lovingly fill out each cause of death. No, John, they have chosen to leave them here. This stack, when we play, goes at the edge of the table as a reminder of what can happen in Axia. So, but notice, I did not say I kill characters. One of the big influences, and I've mentioned this before, in my gaming style is John Wick's Play Dirty articles. I will do my best to remember to put them into the show notes, the link to Amazon, which if you have, or the link to Drive-Thru. If you haven't read them, I highly recommend Play Dirty as a master class in game mastering. In fact, if you want to, you should go over to John Wick's channel, and I believe 2 years ago he read through each chapter with additional commentary. But what he said in this article, this was before it was Play Dirty was a book. It was an article, a set of articles on Pyramid Magazine, the digital magazine for GURPS and Steve Jackson games. He said, no one wants to play with a killer DM. Everyone wants to play with a dirty DM. Meaning tricks and pushing characters to the limits, people enjoy the challenge. They don't want somebody who's just going to sit around and kill their characters. I don't go into any session going, wahaha, how many PCs will I kill today? I think that's antithetical to everything we've been talking about on the show. I think it's antithetical to good game masters. If you're somebody who takes joy in slaughtering your players, either it's the kind of game your players want to play, or you're not going to have a table for very long. That being said, players die, or characters die in my games. A lot. And this discussion started on Twitter, was brought to my attention by someone that I follow, who their comment on the original tweet was, you should never, ever, ever in D&D kill or allow he said kill, but I'm going to say allow a player character to die unless you and that player have agreed beforehand that this is the time of their death. I think that's nonsense. I'm going to explain why. So there's something we love to talk about. John just brought it up, right? One of the things that I love to talk about on this channel is the dice tell a story. Sometimes when you get hit by a Hellstrom Gatling gun and the dice keep exploding and you take 5 wounds and there's no wound cap on the game and you crit fail your soak, character's dead. Sometimes you go running into the room and that fire giant crits, drops you to negative hit points in one blow, and you're dead. Sometimes you fail that save versus death. Let's talk about save versus death. That's something that's in older school games that a lot of people have a problem with. How dare you have a mechanic in a game that is a single roll or your character dies? That's not how I view it at all. Saves, in whatever version of D&D you are playing, saves are grace. Saves say you have a chance of this thing that would kill anyone else. You have a chance, albeit how small or at the edge of probability that it is. You have a chance of it not dying. Saves are a grace. Save versus death is grace built into the game mechanics. So sometimes the dice tell a story. And in the same way, I would react poorly if one of my players was cheating, fudging the dice to their whim, to their narrative in their head. I wouldn't fudge the dice to the narrative in my head. Feel like that would be just as much cheating. And I know there is a huge discussion about whether GMs should fudge rolls or not. We're not going to talk about that today. Maybe someday in the future. But for the most part, I roll in the open. Dice lie where dice lie. The GM screen is there to protect my notes, not to protect my dice rolls. I think that there's something about that the players get. But more importantly, and the thing I want to talk about is, I do think one of the great virtues that as game masters we are called to shepherd in our games are player agency. Sometimes that means explaining to a player why what they want to do won't work. Right? I think of one of my favorite Critical Role episodes, or clips from parts from a Critical Role episode, where Keyless jumps off a cliff, and, physics takes over. There are times where player agency leads to great things. It leads to unexpected things. But there are times when player agency leads to bad decisions and bad outcomes. If you, as a game master, change that to prevent death, aren't you impinging on a player's agency? Does the player have really any choice if you are saying, no matter what you do, you cannot die? No matter how absurd the odds, no matter how absurd or ill-informed or wrong the choices are made, nothing bad will ever happen to you. Now, I'm not saying that that death is always the only option. Capture is great. Mocking, beating up, stealing of magic items, those are all options. But death is on the table in my games because it allows choices to have consequences. I wouldn't impinge on agency in any other way. Why would I impinge on this? Now, again, we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons as sort of the baseline for this. I mentioned Savage Worlds as well. Some games it's harder for characters to die. Savage Worlds, for example. Torg is very hard for characters to die. Kids on Bikes. You literally can't die in Tales from the Loop. Not Kids on Bikes, Tales from the Loop. That's fine. There are games where mechanically death is never a consequence. And that's great because it fits in the genre. But if we're playing games like Call of Cthulhu or RuneQuest or Dungeons and Dragons, death is a consequence. Yes. Yeah. Defiling the altars of dark gods is always a bad decision. Destroying them is almost always a better option. Yes, it gives agency to the character certified to organic, and it creates tension and drama. I'm going to give two examples. My buddy, Corey, who I've mentioned on the show, he played in a game long ago, an Exalted game, and the group very quickly realized that nothing they did really mattered. They could not die. I remember once Corey coming back from a game, I think it might have been the last session of the game, he talked about standing on a ballista bolt naked, being fired into an approaching army just to see if he would take damage and his character would die. And the GM ignored all of that and allowed him to pass through. That's the reason he didn't go back is because he had no agency in the game. He felt like none of his choices mattered because the GM just wanted to get the players through the story that they had played. On the other hand, in my Axia game, a group of second and third level players stumbled into the lair of a dragon. That was, they went dragon hunting. And through wit and courage and serious tactical play, they managed to get out with only 2 deaths. And the 2 who died were caught in the dragon's acid breath. And the Black Dragon versus second level characters, I think one person made their save, one person was liquefied, and the other one, like everything, even their gear was destroyed. But at no point did I say, hey, this is a bad idea. Hey, no, you won't need to worry about this. Go in and kill the dragon. They went through and they made that choice, and the dice fell where they were. And it was possibly the best dragon fight that I've ever run in recent memory. Yeah, there were losses, but it was a hard-won victory. They enjoyed it. Yeah, John, I think anytime we as GMs are tempted, overly tempted to, or just do, maybe you should write a book, maybe a short story. Maybe turn it into an adventure and see where the actual decision points and the agency can be. Yes, Padre, that was the thing. It's Exalted. It is over the top. You are the warriors of the sun. You are the pinnacle of creation. But even the Exalted were cast down by the Dragon-blooded. And in this game, these 4 guys they took no damage, they could do no wrong, they could suffer no consequences. And so that's the thing. I mean, I read it on a YouTube comment, unattributed. I don't remember where I got this. All I remember is it's not my idea, but I clearly internalized it. If you get everything you want at the end of a campaign, and you haven't had to sacrifice anything, and you've won every fight, I would question your agency in that campaign. Choices have consequences. Choosing A precludes B. Choosing B means you may get what you want at the cost of a hand, or an NPC, or an ally, or yourself. We had deaths even in the Torg game. Yes, some of them were martyr cards, brilliantly played by Shawnee and Ross over the course of that campaign. Some of them were explosive deaths. I'm thinking of Anton. And again, some games it's much harder to die. Torg, you take wounds, you can soak them, and even when you are down, you test for defeat to fail a check, and even then you still get one last heroic action. So this is a good point that brings up. I think that's something that kind of comes up quite a bit. And again, it depends on the game. What happens if a character dies? JM, that means they have to start from ground zero. Well, yes and no. One, most modern games, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and Torg Eternity, and I believe this rule is in Savage Worlds, John Doom can be my encyclopedic knowledge. If someone dies, the new character comes in at the same level of advancements or XP in Torg, or roughly the same level in Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder. Part of that is mechanical. Hey, if we're level 7 and you're level 1 in a modern game where everything is fine-tuned, you're going to be in trouble because you're not actually pulling your weight. Most of these monsters are just going to kill you. Part of its narrative. The new group, or the old group, attracts characters of equal power and renown. In Torg, the Delphi Council looks at your files and goes, we're not sending an alpha recruit to the B team. They need someone a little bit tougher. Twilight Legion draws in seasoned ranked agents for seasoned ranked adventurers. I think, but in old school games, that doesn't really matter. The progression is much flatter. In my Axia game, the way it works is I keep track of everyone's XP, and you come in at half the highest XP total of the same class as you, and then you get bumped up to whatever that level is. You get bumped up to the end of it. So essentially, you come in at about half the power of the highest. If you're a fighter, you come in at about half the power of the strongest fighter, and it doesn't matter as much because one, the XP you're getting is equal to the higher ones, so you're going to level faster. Because remember, in older school games, the XP charts they vary by class. Hey, Mark, we were just talking about the death of Axia characters. So Tink says you like the idea of a GM being an arbiter instead of a puppet master. Then I like the tension, the dramatic moments about gaming. Yeah, here's the thing. I think you get the tension and the dramatic moments much more with an arbiter as opposed to an author. Because you never know when that one bad die roll is actually the start of something catastrophic, or whether that next die roll is going to turn it around. The ocular power, the divination of the dice, allows us to all experience that tension. Because I think if we go into the puppet master arbiter or puppet master author thing, we end up with false drama. And false drama, everyone can detect it. Maybe not at first, but eventually there's this acknowledgement that, hey, the verisimilitude of the story is breaking down. Now, Certified Organic brought up a really great point, and that was kind of where I was going to end this. Part of the problem may be in the fact that people come to the table with these massive backstories, these massive ideas of who their character is, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But if a GM who has too much authorial intent, we would refer to as a more of an author or a writer, and is taking agency away from the players. I think somebody who comes with a fully formed character that they have, I saw this on Twitter, somebody who comes with a 10-page backstory and a pre-painted mini customized for their character at level 1, I think they're denying the collaborative agency of everyone else at the table. Your character is starting off in a new story, and that story may be the story of their death. It may not be the story of, hey, here's what you get what you want. I tell most of the players in my Jackals game and in my older games, hey, your character, the story of your character is the one they earn. Right? Jackals has 7 questions to establish who you are before you start. I don't want a huge backstory. The story of Jackals is the story of the group. It's not your story, it's our story. And I mean that for the other players at the table. They get to interact with your character. When I'm a player, like in Bob's game, I really try to just have just enough of a story, maybe 1 paragraph, enough to give some hooks to the GM and so that I understand how to play them. The more the backstory you bring, the more I think as a player you probably should just write a story. You're already doing it. Part of this great thing we do with gaming is to find out the character stories. Now again, if you're a DM who's like, I hate the idea of death, I don't want to have death in my game, one, I may suggest that you try another game, because there are plenty of games where that consequence has been completely removed. But it's your game. I'm just saying this is how I run my game. Here's what I think. I think agency is important. I think consequences are important. We talked about the consequence list, perhaps my number 1 GMing and plotting tool. If consequences aren't on the table, what are we doing? If we don't have consequences, we don't really need rules. So why not just sit around and pass the talking stick and chat about the collaborative story that we want to tell? Mark does have a history in my gaming group of the moment he shows up with that custom painted mini, that's the night that the dice go against him. It has become such a trope in my games that Rob, who is a friend of ours, Rob Hainsu, who does the who does the 13th Age game, has suggested that I run for Mark's birthday a game where all of us play one of his dead characters, and the winner of this contest gets to come back to life. I also love that Mark plays every one of his characters with abandon. He loves each and every one of them, and when they die, he mourns them and picks up the character sheet of the next one and is right back in there ready to play. Exactly, Mark. The background is the hook. So in Bob's 5th edition game, all I know about my elf is that he is a Ronin, a psychic warrior, who has come to Undermountain to hunt down the assassins who killed his lady. That's what I gave him. He's like, are they in Undermountain? I'm like, I don't know. And I don't care. I have been told that they are here. I have given you a reason why I'm with the party, and I've given you something to play with. If you bring it up, awesome. If not, that's fine. I have my next character already planned out because Bob is running a super, super tactical game of 5th edition. And he is pretty sure my high elf fighter is going to die. And yes, I have referred to the 1,000 Psychic Wars many times, Mark. many times. Thanks to Evan for reintroducing me to my love of Blue Oyster Cult during one of our TPK games. So, agency and death, I think they go hand in hand. I think you can't have one in your game without the other, without changing the rules of the game pretty heavily. So, if you have any comments, please feel free to leave them down below. Thanks to the chat for joining me. On Thursday, we're going to have our crossover episode with Game Master Matt. He's going to be on the channel. We're going to talk about alignment from the GM's perspective. And then, actually, Matt is releasing a episode on death and agency as well. I know he recorded his first, but I think I beat him to it. But it's just something we've been talking about, and I've seen being talked about, and I thought it would be good to just hang out and chat about for a little bit. So, when you come to my table, know your characters are in your hands. Sometimes the dice will roll against them, but ultimately their fate is in your hands. Make the best choices you can in the moment, and if those choices don't pan out, learn from them. Apply what you learned to the next character. Even in Crucible, we're playing Savage Worlds, which is a very heroic, pulpy game. I got maybe 3 sentences of background from each person. We're going to find out who they are over the course of the game, which tonight will be the second session of that game as they descend into the sewers under Crucible, trying to discover what is up with this dead and missing antiquarian. So, until then, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I'll see you all on Thursday. Thanks to everybody for showing up in the chat. Always good to see you. Thanks to all of our patrons whose support allows us to keep the lights on, keep streaming, keep doing shows like this. I appreciate it. We talk about a lot of things on the Discord channel, which is for patrons only. If you want to go jump over to patreon.com/iconicproduction, you get access to a ton of cool features, personalized messages. At the higher levels, you get to play in a game with Mark himself. And yeah, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming, and I will see you all tonight for Crucible of Realms and on Thursday for more Behind the Screen. Have a good one.